So when it comes to the legalities around committee members, committees are well protected, particularly through their state bodies. But in regards to a committee member and their role, it is really important that they act in the fair and reasonable way for their club, that they've always got their club at the forefront, that they remove any conflict of interest, and they're fair and equitable within decisions that are made. In regards to dispute settlement within a club, it's always best practice for a club and a committee to try and take care of things themselves in a really respectful way.
And you want to make sure as a club committee member that you're understanding the issues that people are having in the club and making sure that whilst those issues are there and there's no excuse for certain code of behaviour or code of conduct breaches, you need to be able to say there is a line here and these are the sanctions if you go beyond that.
Dispute resolution within clubs, there has to be a set of rules within the club's constitution around dispute resolution to provide a pathway for them. That can be as little as that they have to meet in good faith and try and resolve it themselves, or it can be quite a detailed dispute resolution process whereby they have to meet, then go to mediation and then even go to arbitration. And of course they can always go to court, but that's to be avoided at all costs really, because it's just a terrible process for all parties involved.
The club needs to take note and try and resolve all of these issues. It might get to a point where it requires mediation or a dispute resolution, but the idea is that you need to make sure that every single person in the club knows that if there's an issue, the club and the club committee is going to look at it, and they're going to try and resolve it to the best of their capacity. I think the important thing is that the policies are there to safeguard members. They've been identified as something that's important throughout the entire country.
There are many reasons and many examples of this not taking place, and that's when organisations like regional sports assemblies can be involved. Tennis Victoria can be involved, but Dispute Settlement Victoria are a key resource for clubs to use and to refer to when necessary. They'll step through a fair process for clubs, particularly if roles and responsibilities within the club aren't adhered to.
The most important things committee members have to consider when governing a club is, and I've said it many times today, is communication between themselves and with the members.
I think when it comes to clubland and sporting clubs and tennis clubs, position descriptions are king. Without a position description, people are potentially unsure of what role they play within a committee. A position description allows people to, it's like a role, it's like a job, I suppose. It gives you some key responsibilities and key agendas that you need to follow. It ensures that you have the right skill set to deliver the role that you're there to deliver on. And if not, to ensure that there's some training provided as well to upskill you where you need to be.
The roles and responsibilities of committee members are key because they have this fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interest of the club. So that, like any other person within the club, be it the caretaker or the cleaner, they all should know what they're doing. So if you're the club treasurer or the club secretary, you should have a role description to assist you meet the specific tasks associated with that role. Every director is equal, but that doesn't mean they can't have different jobs. So a role description does assist with that. It also has the benefit of attracting volunteer protection legislation, because if a volunteer acts within their roles and responsibilities and their job description, then that legislation should step in to protect them in the event of that volunteer being sued. And that applies to volunteer directors and committee members as well.
I think it's really important to have a really clear agenda. So probably the first tip is to have a really clear agenda with your agenda items and ensuring that people understand what the meeting is there to take place. Be really clear around your timing. Have a real clear time set that you will start and finish your meeting so that it doesn't creep outside of that, so that people are committed to the time that they're there, that you get the best out of them. Ensure that you have many voices around the room. You don't want just the president talking the whole time. You need to ensure that there's great voices and good spread of advice and good spread of opinion around the table. And to ensure that you've got the right skill sets as well. So committee meetings are really successful when the right skill sets are around the room with a really consistent message and a lot of voices around the room. And probably the final thing is minute taking, to ensure that minutes are taken right throughout a committee so that all members and all committee members that are not present are aware of the movements of the club.
So when we're looking at what our committee is going to look like. Our committee needs to look like the people in the neighbourhood. It needs to look like the people in our broader community.
In regards to clubs and governance, something that's really key to concentrate on is to understand the demographic and the makeup of your committee, understand your skill sets that sit within that, understand where the club wants to move forward, and really plan and be really proactive rather than reactive.
You definitely have to start with understanding who your community is. It might be cultural groups, it might be your neighbourhood. Regardless, you need to be identifying who is playing at your sports club and who needs to be represented. If you've got that down pat, then you've got that idea in your mind. The process of getting new members into your club committee is going to be a lot easier, but it's also going to be a lot more representative. So if you don't have any women in your committee, then that's probably something that you need to look at. If you don't have people from diverse communities, that might be something that you need to look at as well.
It's also monitoring the finances of the club, because that's the biggest risk to committee members, really, that we see across sporting clubs, across a whole raft of sporting clubs throughout Australia, that they need to monitor the finances and have some sort of financial management system in place. So open and clear communication will save the day 99 times out of 100 for a club committee and its governance of the club.
Don't try and do it all. Don't try and do it all on your own, and don't try and do it all at once. So reach out to those folks, the organisations that can actually support you. Tennis Victoria have people who are paid to help you with this. Reach out to them. You know, they're not there to only govern you, they're there to support you in your governance and to help grow your capability. I think it's critical for committees to lead by example. Most things actually start with a mindset and then the actions that you deliver to those things. I think that you can have a whole list of actions, but if you don't actually have that underpinned by the mindset, you can become quite disconnected and not consistent in what you're doing. So leading by example from a governance perspective or from anything, really if you anchor yourself in that mindset of doing the right thing and considering the impact of what you're doing on your whole community, not just on yourself, but actually think about the different people that you have that come to your club, that you want to come to your club who might not be there already, but also the broader community that you engage in. If you start that as your anchor point, the rest of it actually then, I think falls in line with those guide rails much more easily.
It's looking at your committee and saying what is the best way to get the most out of your committee for the members that you've identified. Everyone in the club has worth. You're valuing every single person in the club and your community, because valuing people in your club is important. It'll definitely keep people there, it'll help retention, it'll make people feel good, it'll make you feel good.
The behaviours of always making sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're looking out for those around you, that you're helping support the committee and also the community that you sit within, starting with the mindset about thinking about who it is that's in your community, who you want to bring that to that community, that you are also engaging in a way that's ethical but doing the right thing.
Lessons for a well-run committee: be aware of each other, communicate openly, and have clear schedule for meetings, and turn up. They should turn up. If people don't turn up to committees, then that will automatically start breeding resentment, because less directors might be thinking they're doing more and more of the work.